I'm going to be sharing my screen with you guys here in a minute. So when we talk about listings, okay, typically what we're talking about is what do we do on the listing presentation? How do we make a great listing presentation? And what I want to demonstrate for you guys today is if you do everything right up to the point of the listing presentation, the listing is really yours to lose. Okay. As long as the same person shows up at the presentation as has been presented up to that point, you should get it easily. So what I'm going to take you through today is something that I take my team through. I've got a team right now of 18 salespeople. We sold 40 houses last month. We list 80% of the listing appointments we go out on, and I teach them to follow these steps that I'm going to take you guys through today. Now, listen, as we go through this, I appreciate everybody's muted, but if for some reason you have a question, you just unmute yourself and speak up, and I will acknowledge you. All right. So you guys ready to start? Let's jump in. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay. I hope everybody can see that okay. Awesome. So the first thing we got to look at is to make a great impression. Okay. Number one, we want to have an effective script that we use. Okay. Which everybody should have a script for the different methods of prospecting. But then it's how do we close? How do we close for the appointment? How do we make a great impression when we close for the appointment? So what I want you guys to write down is this. Every seller is looking for three things. Let's just keep this simple. Every seller's looking for three things. They want to know, how much is my home going to sell for? And within that question, how much am I going to get out of it? Everybody wants to know what's it going to sell for? What am I going to put in my pocket? Number two, they want to know, how long is it going to take to sell my home? Because in most cases, it's time specific. They're selling this home because they have a contract on another home. They're selling this home for this reason or that reason. They've got a deadline or plans that they're trying to accomplish. And so they want to know from you as the professional, hey, about how long is it going to take to get this done and closed? So that's the second thing. The third thing they want to know is, what are you going to do to sell it? What are you going to do to sell it? Now, I'm not going to be spending any time today going into the actual listing presentation. Maybe we can make that a subject of another call, but I know all of you have a listing presentation. The presentation that I use and I've created for my team is a visual listing presentation. It's basically just made on PowerPoint, just a bunch of visual slides. Okay. But so we need to be able to answer those three questions for a seller. So what I'm going to recommend is that you close offering to give them those three things that they want. So let's look at this one close. Why don't I stop by and take a quick look at your home? And while I'm there, I can show you how much your home will sell for and how much you're going to net out of the sale, how long it should take to sell, and exactly what I'll do to sell it for you. Are you available this afternoon, or is tomorrow better? Okay, so again, I'm closing them, letting them know that I am going to give them what it is that they want. Okay, and I'm going to close them for that. The easiest way to get a yes is to basically say, hey, I'm giving you what you need. Okay, so why don't I stop by, take a quick look at your home, and while I'm there, I can show you how much your home will sell for and how much you're going to net out of it, how long it should take to sell, and exactly what I will do to sell it for you. And then use the alternative choice close. And when you, by the way, when you use this alternative choice close, let me give you some specific instruction here. I know some of us have been taught to say, are you available at, this afternoon at 4 o'clock or tomorrow at 5? I do not recommend that you give a specific time. Okay. I mean, I've listed over 5,000 homes over my career. Okay. And what I've learned is if I use that specific time, what if they take it literal? Okay, I'm either available this afternoon at 4, tomorrow at 5. They can't do either one of those times, but they could do tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Well, hey, I can make that work. So instead, on the alternative choice close, what I say is, are you available this afternoon or would tomorrow work better? So give them a broad window. And then once they say, well, tomorrow would work, great. Now let's narrow it down to the time. Okay. And I'll tell you something else I want you guys to practice. Do not accept any appointments in the morning. The mornings are when we're prospecting to get ourselves booked on appointments. So if they ask for a morning appointment time, all you simply have to say is, I'm already committed at that time. Can I meet you at, and then offer an alternative time in the afternoon or evening? I'm already committed at that time. Can I meet you at, and offer another time? What you're going to find is the motivated people will be cooperative and they'll typically work with your schedule. The ones that are pushy and want to only meet with you in the morning, in almost every case, at least my experience has been, in almost every case, those are the people that are not the good leads. Okay. So again, how you close for the appointment begins the impression that you're making with the seller. All right. Now let's go to the next point. All right. So after we set the appointment, we immediately pre-qualify. Everybody see that okay? Bianca, can you see that okay? Okay. So we immediately pre-qualify. Now, what we've got to keep in mind is we've already had them on the phone for a period of time and we've booked the appointment. And now we're saying, hey, I want to ask you even more questions. So if you'll notice, the first line, okay, is what I call show them the benefit. In other words, what's the benefit to them for staying on the phone longer with me and answering more questions? So would you mind if I asked you a few quick questions to be sure I'm prepared when we meet? What's the benefit? Me being prepared. See, when I ask that question, what that's saying is, hey guys, your time is valuable and I'm serious about this. I want to make sure that I'm prepared when I meet you. So would you mind if I asked you a couple quick questions to be sure I'm prepared? And emphasize that, to be sure I'm prepared when we meet. Then we're going to roll into the pre-qualifying questions. Now, depending upon the conversation you just had, if you've just discussed their motivation and their timing, skip that. Skip it. If you need to clarify it, then touch on those questions. Okay. Some other key things that you want to make sure you do here is you want to always find out what price or what price range they're thinking when you're pre-qualifying. They may tell you they don't know. Listen, everybody knows. Everybody knows. So when you ask the question, what price would you like to list your home for? Well, I don't know. I'm kind of counting on you to tell me that. Absolutely. And I'm definitely going to be prepared to answer that question for you. I'm just curious, kind of give me a ballpark of what you're thinking. If you just keep going at them, they're almost always going to give you an answer. And you really want to know what they're thinking. Okay. Is the house paid for, or do you have an outstanding balance? Approximately how much do you still owe? Would you mind briefly describing your home for me? How would you rate the condition of your home on a scale from 1 to 10? 10 being like a picture in a magazine. Okay, I want to know, I want to have a mental picture, because it's my intention, guys, to take this listing on the first appointment, not to go out and view it, come back and prepare, then go back again. Okay, one step. So I want to have a clear picture in my mind as to what the condition of the home looks like. So once they answer that question, how would you rate your home on a scale from 1 to 10? Then I would ask, what would it take to make it a 10? So if they said 8, our home is an 8, great. What would it take to make it a 10? Well, we just need a little touch-up paint, and a couple of the kids have got stains on their carpet and we really need to replace that carpet. So just a few little things like that. Fantastic. Now you have a pretty clear image as to what the home's going to look like. And then I use an assumptive close here, just so you know, I'll have all the paperwork with me. So once you're comfortable, okay, which by the way, that's NLP. By the way, so once you're comfortable, we can get your home listed. Okay, both of those are referred to as embedded commands. Embedded commands. The ... or the periods that you see there are designed to be a pause. So the way that you'll deliver this is say, just so you know, pause, I'll have all the paperwork with me. So once you're comfortable, we can get your home listed. Sound good? Okay. Next question. Or it's a statement. I'm going to send over an email with some information I believe you'll find helpful. Would you mind taking a moment to review this email? Okay. Now, again, most people are going to blow off that email. You want to show them the benefit, that you believe they're going to find it helpful. Okay, so I always immediately follow up once we set the appointment. Now, there's several ways that you can confirm it. Some of you may have a packet that goes out. That's fine. That's fine. What we do is we do an email confirmation. Okay, so we're going to send that email over right away. And then we're going to confirm, last question or last point here is we're going to confirm when we're meeting them. Okay, so that's the last step of the pre-qual. Now, if you handle yourself properly, you're asking intelligent questions. You're asking them so that you can be prepared. So the whole purpose of this is to make them feel comfortable and demonstrate how professional you are through this process. Okay. And a point to note here is as you're going through the pre-qualifying questions, what I want you guys to do is you need to print off a copy of the pre-qualifying questions. You need to have multiple copies. And as you pre-qualify them, you should be writing your answers down on the pre-qualification questionnaire. Write their answers down. All right. Any questions on this before I move on? Okay. So again, everything we're doing here is to make a great first impression. Let me tell you guys, one of the great things about our business is our competition for the most part sucks. Most of the realtors out there that we're competing against are not professional. They're not going to be following these steps. They're not going to be doing this. And so the fact that you are prepared, you know what to say, you know how to conduct yourself, you're going to already be way ahead of the competition. All right, good. Let's look at the next point. Okay. So this is an example of what I use here for the appointment confirmation email. All right, now what I'm going to ask Justin, and Justin's on this call, and Justin, when we get done with this call, I want you to take these notes and I want you to put it on to Watson Powers resources. So everybody make a note of that, watsonpowers.com, go to the resources page. Okay, because I know I've got too much for you guys to write right now. So if you'll go to Watson Powers, give Justin a little bit of time, he'll get it posted on there. Make a note probably for tomorrow. I know he's got a doctor's appointment this afternoon, but make a note for tomorrow. Go on to watsonpowers.com under resources, and all these notes and all this will be there for you. Okay, so we have set the appointment. We have asked all the pre-qualification questions, and now we're immediately following up with an appointment confirmation email. So it would start off with their name at the top. It was great speaking with you, and I look forward to meeting you at your home and put the address. I understand hiring a real estate agent is an important decision. So I included a link below to our Zillow reviews. You may or may not have Zillow, whatever you want to do there, you decide. And a summary of who we are. When we meet, I'll explain the aggressive marketing plan we'll use to help you get your home sold quickly for a top dollar price. If there's anything else I can provide prior to our meeting, just let me know. I look forward to helping you and have a great day. All right, then I've got the link in here to our Zillow reviews, which we've got a bunch of them, and it's going to take them right to the reviews. And then I've just created a little resume. Okay. Now this is the resume that I would use. I've created a generic resume for my team members, and you guys just create whatever resume you want. Okay. You can use some of these points, and there's some that won't apply to you, and you add your points in there. But so I want to send this out to them immediately following setting that appointment. Now, let me tell you, this particular item right here really is important. It makes a big difference on how your listing appointment goes. If they don't read this and go over it, then that appointment's a lot harder than when they do. Because when they go over this and they see your great reviews and they see, and quite honestly, what's on your resume doesn't really matter all that much, because very, very few people are going to read this resume item by item in detail. Just the fact that you've got material on there that looks professional is really adequate. Okay. Because again, your competition is not doing this. So the fact you send this out is huge. All right, now coming to the next step. We're going to call and confirm the appointment either the day before or the day of your listing presentation. Now, when you confirm the appointment, we're confirming three things. The date and time. Okay. I'll see you this afternoon at 4 o'clock, or I'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. That they have received and reviewed the appointment confirmation email, and that all decision makers will be present. So the confirmation call will go something like this. Hi, it's Gordon Watson with Hamilwood Realty. How are you? Oh, I'm good, Gordon. How about yourself? Terrific. Hey, I was just calling to confirm our appointment for this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Does that still work good for you? Yeah, no, that works great. We're looking forward to meeting you. Terrific. By the way, I sent you an email after we set our appointment yesterday. Did you receive that? Have you had a chance to go through that yet? You know what? I'm not sure. I have been busy and I haven't gotten to my email yet. Can I ask a favor? Sure, of course. Would you mind taking a moment to look that over? I believe it'll answer a lot of the questions that you may have and help you feel a lot more comfortable with what I'm going to be able to do to help you get your home sold. Would you mind taking a moment to look that over? What are they going to say every time? Of course. But now, again, I want you to hear what I said and how I said it. Because remember, anytime you're trying to persuade somebody to do what it is you want them to do, you've got to show them how that's going to benefit them. Okay, so let me say this one more time. Would you mind taking a moment to look that over? I believe it's going to answer a lot of your questions and help you feel a lot more comfortable with what we're going to be able to do to help you. Would you mind taking a look at it? Okay, who doesn't want to feel more comfortable? Who doesn't want to get a lot of their questions answered? So do what you need to do to get them to review that prior to your appointment. And then finally, so will all decision makers be there? So maybe I'm talking to David, okay? And David's wife's name is Melissa. And so I say, David, you mentioned that Melissa is going to be at this appointment. Is she still going to be able to make that? Yep, Melissa's going to be here. Fantastic. I look forward to meeting her. Okay. Okay, so this is a really important step. Don't skip the confirmation. Okay, they could get messed up on the time. They could have forgotten to write the appointment down. You call and confirm it. Now they put it back on their calendar. So you want to make sure that you cover these three things on the appointment confirmation. All right, next step. I'll give you a lot of details that you've probably never been given before, but I'm telling you guys, it's little things like we're covering on this call that can make the difference in whether you get that listing or not.
Gordon, can I ask a quick question?
Please, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So you call, they haven't reviewed, you talk to them about why they should review.
Yep.
Do you call back again to make sure they reviewed?
Sometimes. Typically what I'll do if they haven't reviewed it yet, then when I get there to the appointment, I'm going to say, by the way, did you guys ever get a chance to review that email I sent you? Oh man, I meant to do it and I forgot. Hey, no problem. I still got to walk through and take a look at the home. Why don't you take a second and look at that? If you have any questions, you can bring it up and we sit down together. Okay. I'm telling you the difference, especially when you're going on a listing appointment, Mike, with somebody that you don't know. The difference in how that appointment goes when they review the email versus when they don't is night and day.
No, I agree, and that's why I'm saying, would you suggest calling in the morning just as a reminder per our last conversation? Please take the time because the benefits of having this is you may have some additional questions that will make our time together more efficient.
Right. Always make it about them. Hey, listen, when we get together, I know your time is valuable. And it's really important that you guys are comfortable and know exactly what I'm going to be able to do to help you. So if you don't mind, take a moment to take a look at that email that I sent you. And if you have any further questions or need anything else, you just let me know. Yeah, so great question, Mike. All right. So let's talk about the next step now. So it's now time for the appointment. So we pull up, and I am not a fan of pulling into the driveway. Okay. I am more of a fan of pulling up at the curb. Now, obviously, there may be some circumstances that prevent that, but I like to pull up at the curb. I want to make sure that my car is clean and it makes a good impression. Okay. If you have a rattle trap, park down the street and walk. Just kidding. Okay. So now we get there before you, number one, you always want to get to the appointment early. There are some people that's the one deal killer right there. You could be the greatest agent in the city, but if you're not on time, you're done. Okay. Always get to the appointment 5 to 10 minutes early. Okay. And if for some reason you could see that you were going to be late, always call. Okay. Let them know, apologize. I'm running late for my last appointment. My GPS says I'm going to be about 3 minutes after. Is it okay if I still come by? As long as you call in advance, normally you're fine. But whenever you can, you always want to be 5 to 10 minutes early. So when you're out there in the car, what are we doing? Okay. Well, we are making sure that all of our materials are in order. Every one of your listing packets should be set up the same way every time. Every form is in the exact location every single time. Secondly, you're reviewing the questions that you asked them on the pre-qualification. Because you've got to remember, why are you there? You are there to solve a problem. And the problem is they own a home that they no longer want to own. They have a job in Las Vegas that they've got to be to in 60 days. And they've got to get this home sold because until this house is sold, they can't make permanent arrangements on a home in Las Vegas. So you are there to solve a problem. So you've got to be clear on what that problem is. What's their motivation? What's their timeline? What price are they thinking they wanted to sell the home for? How much that you want to get all those questions fresh into your mind. Okay. Make sure your hair is combed, make sure your tie is straight, make sure everything looks good. Okay. All your materials in order. Okay. And let me give you one other little tip. And those of you that have been in this business for a little while, you're probably going to cringe when you think about the last time this happened to you. Remind yourself of their names. Anybody besides me? Okay. Walk into the house, it's like, oh my God, I have no idea what their names are. And you're trying to find some tactful way to look at your notes real quick without being too obvious. Yep. Been there, done that. So remind yourself of their names. Awesome. So now that you've got everything prepared, now we're walking up to the front door. Now, as you knock on the door and or ring the doorbell, okay, now let's talk about body language. There is so much, guys, that can be communicated before you ever open your mouth. Number one, whenever they open the door, and guys, this is more for us than you ladies, but it's still not a bad idea. Okay. Whenever they open the door, you always want to take a slight step backwards and turn slightly to the side. Okay. So again, they open the door, you take a slight step backwards and slightly turn to the side. Why? Okay. Because again, we're talking about somebody that you don't know. and you don't want to appear threatening. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people to have a stranger over to their home. And especially if you're in a situation maybe where you're a male and it's a female that you're meeting, it could be uncomfortable. So you want your body language to demonstrate that you're non-threatening. So let's talk about it from the opposite perspective for a second. So Jake, if you and I, we've met several times, okay? If I wanted to threaten or intimidate you, we're face to face. If I wanted to threaten or intimidate you, okay, number one, what would I do? I would step closer to you, right? I'd get in your space.
Yeah,
I would square my shoulders,
exactly.
right?
Yep.
So then common sense would say, if I want to appear non-threatening, do the opposite. So as opposed to stepping towards you, I'm going to step slightly away from you and turn my shoulders slightly to the side. Now, typically what I do is I turn my left shoulder back and my right shoulder forward. Why? Because I'm right-handed and I shake. We all tend to shake with our right hands. Okay, so left shoulder back, right shoulder forward is a body posture that says I'm non-threatening. Okay, all right. Next thing, posture, stand up straight. Throw your shoulders back and put your chin up. Stand up straight. Okay, make sure your body posture demonstrates confidence. You've got to look the part. Next thing, look them in the eye. Look them in the eye. If you're afraid to look them in the eye, if you're one of these people that's looking all over, not looking them in the eye, you're going to lose trust. Look them in the eye, smile, put a smile on your face. Because remember, a smile is like a dog wagging his tail. As long as that dog, you come up to a dog you don't know, as long as his tail's wagging, it's okay to pet the dog. But as soon as his tail stops wagging, you better pull your hand back because you might get bit. So even if you're not a natural smiler, smile. So again, your shoulders are back, your chin's up, you're making eye contact with them, and you're smiling, and you're referring to them by name. Hi, Bianca Gordon Watson. How are you? Thank you for having me over. Now, I'm then going to extend my hand forward to shake her hand. Now, here's the rule of thumb. Anybody else besides me been raised in a military family? David, I had a bad habit that I had to break. Okay, I had a bad habit because in my family, if you couldn't drop a man to his knees with your handshake, you weren't a man. Okay, and I had this bad habit of squeezing people's hands too hard. The rule of thumb is you squeeze their hand to the same degree that they squeeze yours. So this is not a time to show how strong you are, and this is not a time to be a limp noodle. Squeeze their hand to the same degree they squeeze yours. All right, so what have we done up to this point? We've come up to the front door, we've knocked on the doorbell, we've rang the door, they open the door. You take a slight step back, turn your left shoulder back slightly, stand up straight, shoulders back, head high, smile on your face, looking them in the eye, greeting them by name, and extending your hand, squeezing their hand to the same degree that they squeeze yours. Okay, guys? All of these little things make a difference with the impression that you make. Do they see you as a professional, or do they see you as the opposite? All right, now, any questions before I move on to the next point? Bianca, go ahead.
You mentioned to have all your paperwork in the same place. So do you still print out the contracts or do you do electronic signatures?
You know what? We still print out the contracts, but I do know that some of you use electronic signatures. Okay. In this day and age, as all of us, I'm sure on this call can relate to, there are more and more and more and more papers. Every year, there's more stuff. And so you want to make sure that your papers are neatly organized and in the same place every time so that you don't forget to get things signed that you need to get signed. So if you're one of those that uses the iPad or laptop or whatever to get electronic signatures, great. Just make sure that everything is organized and you do it the same way every time. Okay, the last thing we want to do is distract ourselves on a listing presentation by trying to thumb through and find paperwork because I don't know where I put it. I can't find it. Same place every time. Great question. Okay, any other questions on that? All right. So now let's see who else can I ask you? So Rulon, how are you, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Great. So let's just pretend that today is your birthday. All right. And I bring you two gifts. And I tell you that you can only have one. You have to pick which one. Okay. They're both in an identical box. One of them I've wrapped in newspaper. The other one I've wrapped in beautiful wrapping paper with a bow and a nice card. And I set them both down in front of you and said, happy birthday, Rulon. You can pick one of these two gifts. Which one are you going to pick?
I'm gonna pick the nice one with the bow and the card.
Of course you would. Okay. And the reality is there's the same thing in both boxes. Okay. Why would you pick the one with the nice wrapping paper and the bow and the card?
Because everybody loves nice things.
Sure.
Yeah.
It implies value, doesn't it?
Yes.
You just assume that the gift inside that box is nicer than the gift inside the one with the newspaper, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you guys see where I'm going with this. Okay. How are you wrapping yourself? Meaning, how do you dress when you show up at a presentation? So let's look at some examples here. Whenever you're going to a listing presentation, now I know most of you probably been taught just like me. You know, when I was growing up, my mom and dad said, you know, Gordon, don't judge people. Don't judge a book by its cover. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I have never figured out a way to not do that. It's an involuntary reaction. As soon as I meet somebody, I'm sizing them up. So and raise your hand if you're like me. Okay. All right, good. So if that's the case, then you've got to make sure that you give yourself that advantage. Now, listen, as times change, like I'll tell you one of the things that that I've had to get used to is it's okay now in a business environment for men to wear a coat and shirt without a tie. It's okay now. It didn't used to be. Used to look sloppy. Now it's okay. They've even got some of these shirts that are the untuck it shirts. My partner, Steve, he loves those untuck it shirts. Okay. You can still look the part. You can still look professional. So you've got to know though, what that look is. And you've got to make sure it's worth spending a little extra money to upgrade your wardrobe to make sure that you look the part. So I've got some examples here, some men and women that have a very professional look. You'll notice that in most cases, they're wearing darker clothing because the darker clothing is considered to be more of a professional look. So let's just say that you don't know any of these people, and these are your choices. Okay, one of these people show up on the first presentation, and this one shows up on the second presentation. Or this one right here. Who are you going to assume is the more knowledgeable and skilled professional? Got a feeling this is the ones we're going to go with right here, right? Okay. So make sure that you look the part, that you dress the part. Now, everything that we've talked about up to this point on this presentation today has not involved the listing presentation. Everything is what we do leading up to it. But see, here's the thing, guys. Listen, this coming Sunday, we're going to watch the Dallas Cowboys against the Chiefs. No, wait a minute. That was my fantasy. I'm sorry. It's the Philadelphia Eagles against the Chiefs. And I guarantee you, these guys have prepared. Okay. We've got to make sure that we are prepared. We've got to make sure that all of the details prior to the listing presentation that we attend to, and that they make that positive impression, so that when we actually now go to make the listing presentation, they're already impressed. See, my belief is when you do this right, that listing's 80 to 90% taken. Now it's just a matter of making a great presentation. And you're going to get that listing way more than if you don't pay attention to these details. Excellent. So we stopped sharing my screen. Any questions? Anything I can help you guys with? Justin, he's going to put these notes up on the watsonpowers.com so you guys can pull this down with the scripts and dialogues. Any questions at all? Ray Sendall, how are you? Good to see you, man.
Great to see you too. Well,
Talked with one of your agents the other day, called me and asked a question. And it seemed like I'm trying to remember his name, but it seemed like he was
Peter.
on the ball.
yeah, Peter called.
Yes, Peter, thank you. Excellent. So any questions before we wrap things up for the day? All right. So if you need us, yep. Mike, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just with coaching with Steve as well, is the idea of having the wife involved as well. Is there a point in time you should get the spouse involved in doing two?
So that's a great question. That's a great question. You know, there are it's so common question that Steve and I get is, hey, we've called and we've confirmed, but I can't get both spouses there. It's only one. What do I do? Is that your question, Mike?
Yeah, or should we try to get two? You know, kind of both.
We always
scenarios.
want to try to have both. We always want to try to have both. But we've all been in situations where it doesn't work out. Okay. So then what do we do? Okay. So Brian says reschedule. And sometimes, Brian, that's right. Okay. It just depends upon the situation. So what I would do is I would ask. So let's just say that Mike, what's your wife's name?
Jessica.
Jessica. Okay. So I'm meeting with Mike and Jessica, and I call up Mike and confirm the appointment and say, now, will Jessica also be able to make it? Oh, Gordon, she had something come up at the last minute and she's not going to be able to be here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to qualify. I'm say, so Mike, let me ask you this. Is Jessica really just going to rely upon, your opinion, or would she rather be involved in the decision?
She's going to want to be involved in the decision.
Absolutely, as she should be. So then why don't we do this? Let's find a time that I can meet with both you and Jessica. When would be a good time that she could make it? And then we'll reschedule. But sometimes it's going to be, you know what? She really is not into this kind of thing. She's just going to count on me to take care of it. In which case I'm going to move forward with the appointment. Okay. So there's not an always do it this way or always do it that way. It's ask questions and then it's a judgment call. Okay. Now I'll tell you this, if that seller is motivated enough, I'm going to be more inclined to err on the side of I'm just going to go and meet with one person than not meet with anybody. Okay. If that person's motivated enough, because we've all been in that spot where sometimes you can't get that second appointment. So it's a judgment call. Good question though. Thank you. Any other questions? Let's see. All right. There's some just looking at our chat. Yes, we're going to have the scripts on the website. Yep. All right. Very good. All right, guys. Again, get signed up for the Edge, April 3rd and 4th. Okay. Right here in Norman, Oklahoma at Belmar Golf and Country Club. Can't wait to see you guys. Steve and Sydney and I are preparing. It's going to be a fantastic event. Invite everybody that you know. And Steve and I and Sydney as well, we're available for you. If there's anything you need, reach out to us. Otherwise, have a great day. Appreciate you being here, and we will talk soon. David, you get better, buddy.